Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Yeah, need to. 7 years of Spanish, that's pretty much all I can say. Pero trabaja. Let's go, guys. Why English is full of silent letters. Is that really only an English thing? French definitely has a lot of silent letters, I feel like. Like, the language I think of that has the least silent letters would be German. I feel like in German, you pronounce everything. Every consonant, every word, every letter. Let's get started. My name's Connor. If you're new, I forget what I said. Terrible intro. Preemptive like. Love Rob words. Let's go. Why is English full of silent letters? Let's learn.
For a language to have silent letters. It's perfectly normal for a language to have silent letters.
Okay. Yassa, da, voglio, io, hijo, vu.
But with English, it's just got way out of hand, without doubt. It's been said that every single letter of the alphabet can be silent in English. So let's put that to the test and find out how our language ended up this way.
T.
Welcome to another Rob Words. English does have an extraordinary number of words with silent letters.
Dang it, ballet.
I mean, just look at them. But for each of them, there is an explanation. Some of these explanations are historically fascinating. Some of them offer extraordinary insights into the ways in which we speak. And some of them are just really irritating. I think you're going to agree. So let's see if indeed every letter of the alphabet can be silent in...
Well, I'm sure he's going to bring this up, and I'm pausing already. I know that. Last pause, I swear. That I remember in a Western Civ, we call it course at college. We had like two professors that would alternate, which was interesting. I liked it. I liked both of them. And one of them could speak and read Old English. And the main thing you notice, or maybe Middle English, whatever, is that most everything is pronounced. Take the word knife. It would be it's like knife or I can't think of other examples. But anyways, yeah, you really pronounce everything, and I'm sure over time, as languages just tend to evolve on their own through slang and whatnot, and also with different influences like from the Vikings or the Normans and native British languages, I'm sure things change and they're easier to say.
English, because...
The last pause.
So let's see if indeed every letter of the alphabet can be silent in English, because I must admit I'm a little bit skeptical. Just keep an eye on this up here as we tick them off, and we'll see if by the end there are any letters left. So where to start? Well, I reckon the default assumption when we see a silent letter in a word is that at some point that letter must have been pronounced. At one time people were saying receipt and debt. Of course they were. We just got lazy over time and stopped pronouncing them. So what if I were to tell you that the P in receipt and B in debt were never pronounced? Because they weren't.
Right.
This is how the word debt was spelled when we borrowed it from French around 700 years ago. In fact, it's still spelled like that in French. And look, no B. Now see how its spelling varied over the centuries afterwards. Still no B through the 1300s, all throughout the 1400s and the 1500s until, whoop, what's this? Where did that come from? Suddenly, in the middle of the 1500s, a B appears. What? Why?
I can't remember the last time I've watched any video where I'm so excited to know what the reason is.
Well, something else is happening at precisely this time. The Renaissance. The Renaissance in England sees scholars and the like taking a sudden interest in ancient Greece and Rome. It's called the Renaissance because it's a rebirth of classical culture. One of the forms this takes for writers is an interest in the Greek and particularly Latin origins of English words. Some of these writers notice, for example, that the word debt most likely came from the Latin debitum, meaning owed. And so, in a nod to debt's classical roots, and to show off that they were aware of them, they started to spell debt with a B. A pointless, self-congratulatory move that users of English like you and me are still having to deal with.
Man, that makes me feel like I would hate to live during the Renaissance for one giant reason. From what you just explained, is that I'm sure there were so many people that were like whoever pronounces the most words Latinized or Greekized would be like, actually, the more Greek, oh my god, he's still pronouncing it without the Latin influence. I would go crazy.
But it gets worse. The Renaissance scholars did almost exactly the same thing with the word doubt, and they introduced that pretentious P into receipt. They wanted never to be pronounced B in plumber, a mute C in indict, a ludicrous L in salmon, and a stupidly silent S in isle. All additional letters that hadn't been present in these words as long as they'd been in English.
In Spanish, you pronounce it isle, right?
That last one, isle, had the knock-on effect of also introducing an S into another word, island, because writers, understandably, thought the words were related, which, funnily enough, they are not. One of them is Germanic and the other one is Romance. And bonus balls up, this is also responsible for the S in the other kind of isle, added to reflect isle too. Also amazing is the fact that we've started to pronounce some of the letters added during this silent revolution. The word perfect didn't have a C in it before the Renaissance, and there was no L in fault either. But those fancy Renaissance scholars shoehorned them in, and now we're sounding them out. So that is one of the more irritating episodes in the story of silent letters in English. It's annoying because they don't need to be there, but it is not the only instance.
So they didn't just do it to like, guys, there's a problem and we could fix that problem by, it's the Renaissance, we could fix that problem by putting in more Latinized words, Greek wording, spelling, pronunciation into these that save a problem. It was just like a very trying to sound sophisticated and like superior. Like if you like, all of the smart intellectuals are now speaking these words this way, so now we're all gonna do it. That's what it seems to be like, instead of like a necessary thing that could help out communication.
Instance of deliberate insertion of inessential letters. Another had occurred slightly earlier, actually, when the first printing presses arrived in England. I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. The fellow who opened the first presses in England, William Caxton, had to hire folk from continental Europe to help him with the things, because the Europeans were the only ones with the expertise. Unfortunately, the foreign printers that came over to Britain had their own ideas about how English should, could, and would be spelled. For example, they thought that could should have an L in it to match with the L's in should and would, despite can being distinctly L-less. So, in some early printed books, could appeared with an L, and it stuck. They also thought thumb had should have a could and would.
Okay, but could, can, would, will, should, shall? Oh, yeah.
Be spelled.
Oh, true.
For example, they thought that could should have an L in it to match with the L's in should and would, despite can being distinctly L-less.
I don't see an issue with that.
In some early printed books, could appeared with an L, and it stuck. They also thought thumb, crumb, and limb should have silent B's at the end of them, like comb, lamb, and womb already did. So now they do. And consistent.
But why not go in the opposite direction? Why not get rid of the B in thumb, crumb, and limb?
comb, lamb, and womb.
Or sorry, get rid of them in comb, lamb, and womb. Well, calm, lamb, wom.
Already did. So now they do. And consistent in their obsession with consistency, they added a W to one of the meanings of whole to match it up with who, what, and why. Although, actually, that one's kind of useful, isn't it? Oh, and they threw a spectral H into ghost because they had one in Flemish. So again, we have a load of words with letters in them that have never been pronounced. And they just sit there, a silent threat to anyone attempting to master English spelling. But do you know where else there are silent threats? The internet. But luckily, NordVPN.
Guys, gonna watch the sponsor. It is his video, and it's a pretty new video, 3 weeks ago. You can fast forward if you want. You have free will. It's up to you. If you do watch it with me, guys, I would love for you to accompany me. And you learn about NordVPN, you want to get it here, make sure to use his promo codes, his links. Original link to Rob Ward's this video, top of the description. You'll find the link in his description. I'm always sometimes hesitant to, like, should I provide the link to the sponsorship? Like, should I copy the link from Rob Ward's video into my own description? I'm torn on that, because on the one hand, I feel like I'm showing that whatever, but on the other hand, I don't have permission, and I don't think it's a right for me to use his sponsorship, even though it's for him. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't do that.
Sponsored this video are here to keep you safe. NordVPN enables you to change your online location so you can surf the net comfortably reassured that you're not being tracked.
I've never felt the need to do this.
This is particularly helpful too if, like me, you're often using unsecured public Wi-Fi, like in a cafe or wherever. But of course, the extra big bonus of websites thinking you're visiting from somewhere else is that they'll allow you to access things that aren't normally available in your actual location. This includes being able to watch streaming content that's geo-blocked where you are. But NordVPN, despite the name, is much more than just a VPN. It's a complete online security package. Its brilliant Threat Protection Pro feature will scan any files you download for malware, direct you away from websites known for scamming people, and block irritating or harmful pop-ups. I have NordVPN switched on all the time, and I can protect my whole family with it by having it on up to 10 devices. If you want to do the same, use my special link, nordvpn.com/RobWordsVPN. I'll put it in the description.
Make sure to use /RobWordsVPN. All right, guys? You'll not only get special deals, but it shows to the sponsor who's sponsoring a creator, right? Like the one we're watching, Rob Words, and shows that their money is working, you know?
And you'll get an exclusive deal with 4 extra months for free. There is a 30-day money-back guarantee too, so it really is risk-free as well. Go to nordvpn.com/RobWordsVPN and give it a go. Now, a lot of the time, that instinctive assumption that a silent letter in a word was at some point in times gone by sounded out as VPN and give it a go. Now, a lot of the time, that instinctive assumption that a silent letter in a word was at some point in times gone by sounded out is correct.
Knife.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Silent K
Knock.
in all of these words.
Knock, knock, knight, knight, knicked, knock, knock, knicked, knob, knock, knife.
Silent now, but not in the past. It's thought we stopped pronouncing the K gradually over the centuries, funnily enough around the time when Renaissance scholars were adding in those other silent letters. But before that, for example in Geoffrey Chaucer's day, the K was being proudly enunciated. His Knight's Tale would have been introduced with "A knicht there was, and that a worthy man."
Oh my god, brings me back to my Western Civ class.
But if you go back further still to Old English being spoken over 1,000 years ago, all of these words appear, although not with a K, but with a C. a C
Knees.
that was sounded out. The C wouldn't have been there if it wasn't, because these arrangements of Latin lettering were supposed to represent Anglo-Saxon speech. An Anglo-Saxon called a knife a kniff, a knot a knotter, and his knee his kneel. In Dutch and German, English's sister languages, a knee is still a knie to this day. And you can copy and paste everything.
Any Dutch or German speakers here? The word knee is, you say knie. Knie. Knie is verboten.
Thing I just said about silent K words over to these silent G words too. We once had gnawing gnats and gnomes. Now, one word you could use to explain the loss of these k and g sounds is laziness. The transitions to the ends were kind of awkward, so we stopped doing them. But another...
I have a theory where young people, ages 12, maybe 12 is, no, 12, 13 to 20, like what we consider like teenagers, I have a theory that teenagers throughout history may be responsible for more new words than anyone else. Do you know what I mean there? Because a lot of slang that I used to think was kind of cringy and like, what the hell is this generation? Sometimes I use now. And then as they grow up, it becomes more accepted. And so I wonder if it's the younger people who always have their own slang that actually contribute the most to new things.
More technical
new words
to explain it is kind of awkward, so we stopped doing them. But another more technical word to explain it is phonotactics. Phonotactics dictate which sounds are allowed to appear together in any given language. For example, in English, we can begin a word with a sp sound combining an s and a p, but we can't begin it with a p sound combining an h and a p. However, phonotactics, these rules about the sounds of a language, can change over time. But we can't begin a word with a sp.
Well, I feel like the S sound is very more abrupt than the H sound. Like the in order to make, like, try and say if it just the letter S, pronounce S, how you would say it. S. But with H, I feel like saying H, you don't say ha, because that would insist that there's an A after, or he. It would be hapel, hinglet
sound combining an S and a P, but we can't begin it with a p sound combining an H and a P. However, phonotactics, these rules about the sounds of a language, can change over time. And that's what's happened with English. Kn and gn sounds were once on the right side of the law, welcome at the start of English words. But now, the law's changed, and they're not. Phonotactics are responsible for many more silent letters in English, especially in words that we have imported from other languages. Different languages have different rules, and when a borrowed word doesn't fit with our sound laws, we have to change that word to make it fit. In ancient Greek, it was perfectly legitimate to start a word with a ps sound, but in English, it ain't. So we pretend the P isn't there when we pronounce Greek-derived words like psychology and psalm. Ditto with words like pterodactyl. However, the rules of English only say that you can't start a word with those sounds.
So Ptolemy would be Ptolemy?
However, the rules of English only say that you can't start a word with those sounds. The pter at the start of pterodactyl, meaning wing, is the same as the pter at the end of helicopter, meaning wing. But because the pt is in the middle of that word, we can pronounce.
Well, because there is a letter before the P, just like with the H example. Like the P sound, how you would say a P relies on the word before, the letter before or after it. Same with H.
It. Helicopter. The same goes with words like mnemonic. You can't kick off an English word with a mn. You just can't. So we skip
mnemonic.
the M. However, in other words like insomnia, that mn sound is A-OK or M-OK. We have rules on how words can end too. No English term can climax with a mn either. So in the case of autumn, good timing, tree. So in the case of the word autumn, we drop that ungainly N. Yet with autumnal, both letters get their time
column
to shine. By the way, Chaucer used to spell autumn with a P in it too, which is definitely just silly. You can't just P anywhere, Jeffrey. Autumn, of course, isn't a Greek word, by the way. It's from French, as are so many of our English words, around a third of them, in fact. Thanks, William the Conqueror. Another way you end up importing silent letters from other languages is by borrowing words that already had silent letters in them. Benign or malign, the French deigned to assign silent end up in English words, around a third of them, in fact. Thanks, William the Conqueror. Another way you end up importing silent letters from other languages is by borrowing words that already had silent letters in them. Benign or malign, the French deigned to assign silent G's to words like rain.
What does deign mean? Benign, malign, assign, rain. What is deign?
And we've aligned with their design. Most of those words were descended from Latin words where the G was pronounced, although, ironically, the silent G in foreign is a homegrown invention. It was added by English writers inspired by the spelling of sovereign. We can thank the French for the fact that we can cross off some of the trickier letters from our silent letter alphabet. Borrowed terms like faux pas and choux pastry give our language its silent X's, and we can casually discard a Z with a laissez-faire rendezvous chez moi. We can also...
So guys, does anyone who's more knowledgeable on this, maybe Rob Words has I'm sure he'd have an answer, but maybe he has a video on it. Does English have more borrowed words and pronunciation than other languages? Or do other languages have the same amount of those things? We just happen to be talking about English right now. So my question is English particularly borrow some of other languages' pronunciations and spelling and words?
So thank French for words like ballet that allow us to cross off T too. Although, listen, I hasten to add that listen and hasten have silent T's in too. Letters dropped as a result of centuries of accumulated laziness. There's no reason not to
But haste doesn't
pronounce those T's. We still say listed and hasty, but sometimes letters disappear for nothing more than convenience's sake. Take the silent D's in handkerchief and handsome, although some people might pronounce the D in the latter of those, just like they might pronounce the D in sandwich.
Handsome. I think I do a little bit of D in there. I put a little D in there for sure. Handsome.
Although others definitely don't. Perhaps you saw Michael McIntyre's recent brilliant reimagining of what English would sound like if we did pronounce all our silent letters.
The sandwich shop is half an hour away. It's a waste of everybody's time.
Although weirdly, I think I sometimes pronounce it sandwich, as if there's an M in it. What's that?
Sandwich? That sounds like a town. East Sandwich upon Avon. Sandwich. I don't want to be influenced. Guys, I'm going to go get a sandwich real quick. Sandwich. Anyone want a sandwich? You guys, you want a sandwich? No, I have to put... You guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to get a sandwich real quick. I do say sandwich. No D.
About? Maybe you do too. Try it. Sandwich. Sam in it.
Sandwich? No. Just SANWICH.
What's that about? Maybe you do too. Try it. Sandwich. Actually, all this raises a good point that I should have mentioned earlier. What might be silent to one English speaker may be loud and proud to another. So far as I'm concerned, the L's in palm and folk are...
How about the difference between your classic American accent, English accent, and your classic British accent. Pretty much every R is silent in British English when it's at the end. Like the barber, copper, hopper, Tuesday, tomorrow, no, cleaner.
Silent. You need them because otherwise you'd have palm and fock, but there is no l sound when I say them. Palm, folk. That was lost in most British varieties of English centuries ago. But some people, particularly in the US, do pronounce those L's. And there are two parallel reasons for that. Some folk retained the L's because their dialect crossed the Atlantic before the Brits decided to drop those L's. And other people are pronouncing them simply because they're in the spelling, unaware that they're usually mute. They're essentially reintroducing them. Good for
Folk. When I say folk, I feel like I'm saying German. Like people. Deutsche Volk. Deutsche Volk. Sorry, I watched too many German World War II documentaries. Folk. Hey, folk.
them. This kind of, they're essentially reintroducing them. Good for them. This kind of tomato difference between varieties of English also governs the overall resonance of the letter R. Some accents are overflowing with silent R's, like mine. I don't pronounce the R in over. There's no R sound, nor at the end of paper or centre, or even in my own blooming sound, nor at the end of paper or centre. Or
I can't believe a channel and as smart a person that Rob is, that he misspelt a word.
Or even in my own
dummy. I'm completely joking. I know this is how. I hope you know I'm joking. I know that's how the British say it. Centre. This I'm going to side with the Americans on. Center is C-E-N-T-E-R. Center, not centra. Center.
Like mine, I don't pronounce the R in over. There's no R sound, nor at the end of paper or centre, or even in my own blooming name. To me, the second R in Robert is silent. Robert. That's because my accent is what is called non-rhotic.
This is a big thing with the New England accent, Bostonian accent, which is around where I live is in New England, and the New English accent, Bostonian accent, New England accent is, in my opinion, and the ugliest American accent, except maybe like the Southern California Valley Girl. Okay, like that might be worse, but get a coffee at the parking lot. Like talk like Peter Griffin. Who do you think you are? Get your car out of my parking spot. I hate it.
Rhotic accents, though, like a lot of Americans have, the R's are not silent. Robert's paper coaster. You see? For people with those English accents, we have to look a lot harder for silent R's. The folk at America's Merriam-Webster dictionary propose forecastle, part of a ship pronounced with typical nautical efficiency, or February. Although
February. What month is it? It's February. Oh yeah, I do not pronounce the R.
Some people would challenge that second example. I actually had to go out of my way there not to say February.
Or
I would say February.
Wednesday.
People definitely do say February, so that'll do. Another letter that has the Merriam-Webster folk somewhat clutching at straws in this, by the way, excellent article, is F. They put forward fifth as a word with a silent F. And I think they're probably right. Even the most precise among us who do say fifth, I think I do most of the time, still probably do find ourselves resorting to fifth when...
Oh, I came in 5th place. That is my 5th favorite. I'm the 5th child. You guys need a 5th? I use 5th.
time and effort are of the essence. Merriam-Webster actually gives that as one of the legit pronunciations of the word fifth, as do the folk at Oxford, who've popped the second F in brackets to show that it is optional. But if fifth doesn't satisfy the F out of you, what about the word halfpenny, where the letter is
Halfpenny? Halfpenny?
definitely dropped, even if it's spelt like that. But F is a tricky customer, as are all of our remaining consonants above. We'll try to silence those shortly, but first observe that all of our vowels still remain too. So, can each of those be mute? Yes.
I can't think
Take
of an
A out of dead and you're still
Damn
dead.
it.
Filter out the E's from sieve and it's still a sieve. When is I silent? I be silent when I is in business. Although, weirdly, the I in business seems to have stolen the U's job instead. Business. And business really does come from the idea of busyness, by the way. And O and U can both be accounted for in the same notorious cluster, the highly versatile word ending O-U-G-H. We ignore the O in enough, but skip the U in cough. English can be really silly. So that's all 5 of those vowels swiftly dealt with. They can
Okay. Y. There's gotta be one with Y. V. Q. Oh, there has to be a Q. J. Giraffe. That's a G.
can all be silent in English. A big reason why a lot of vowel sounds don't resemble their spellings is, of course, the famous Great Vowel Shift, which saw
quiche.
Don't resemble their spellings is, of course, the famous Great Vowel Shift, which saw the pronunciation of English long vowels change pretty dramatically over just a couple of hundred years, and their spellings simply didn't keep up. I did a big video about that, and I will leave a link below. It's a goodie. But now we're left with the really tricky letters. Now, to me, it makes sense to go with Y next, it being a sort of part-time vowel. Which English words have a silent Y? Let's see what the clever folk at Merriam-Webster went with. Beyond?
Yeah, I can think of some that can, like, psychology. It sounds like an I, but a Y can make that noise. Like polyester sounds like an E, but a Y can have an E sound.
So their logic is that if you take the Y out, you still get beyond.
Beyond.
But hold on, I definitely hear a Y sound.
Yeah, I don't say beyond. I said beyond.
Beyond. It's related to yonder, isn't it? Beyond. That Y might be superfluous, but it isn't silent. It's only in beyond because of the way English speakers insert Y sounds as they transition between certain vowel sounds. Beyond. It's called the intrusive Y, which sounds much spookier than it actually is. So which words really do have a...
Cryptic. Does that have a Y in it? No, it doesn't have an I.
Silent Y. Martyr? Maybe? Martyr.
I can't think of another way. I can't think of another instance where a Y is a sound or an sound. So I think that might count.
There's no obvious Y sound going on in there, but you do need it because you can't just end a word with TR. We're back to phonotactics again. I think martyr's a maybe. Says, perhaps. You definitely don't pronounce the y.
Yeah.
Not unless you're being excessively precise, saying says. But if you take it away, you get saz, not says. So another maybe there, I reckon. What about there? I like to think I pronounce it there, but...
There. There. Well, I pronounce T-H-E-R-E and T-H-E-Y-R-E the same. There. 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 It's over there. It's there. There over there. There over there. No, I guess I do pronounce them differently. Like a place there. There. But a group. There. I kind of do a-er instead of er.
I bet I and a lot of people end up pronouncing it sometimes the same as these words, hence the common confusion between the three of them. But is there really a word? It's more a smooshing together of two, isn't it? At this rate, we haven't got a prayer of finding one. Hold on a second. Prayer. Prayer. And I guess some people pronounce...
Wait, no, that's prayer. Prayer. No, that doesn't count. Prayer. Prayer.
I say prayer, but I bet they're in the minority. No, I think that's it. I'm having it.
Prayer.
Cross Y off the list. Prayer is a word with a silent Y in it. Okay, I've had a good old think and a good old Google about J already, and man, this one is tricky. Not just because there appears to be only one silent J in the English language, but because it's a word that I'm not even sure that I'm allowed to utter without incurring the wrath of the...
Let's see. What word is troublesome that has a J in it?
YouTube gods. Let's risk it. The word is marijuana. Now, obviously, in its native Spanish, that J would be making a charismatic h sound.
Marijuana.
But in English, it isn't really doing anything. Take it away and you get marijuana. It certainly isn't making its usual j sound or its
Marijuana
occasional
sauce.
y sound. So I reckon that does count.
I'd say it counts
Let's
too.
chalk off J too. Now next
Q
to the
and
Q
V.
is Q, a letter that, let's face it, we don't really need. But is it ever silent? Well, how about in racket? Take it away along with its parasitic U and you still get racket.
Does that count though if you're also taking away the U?
That'll do, won't it? I know in the US racket is now spelt
CK.
like that, but so far as I know you still spell the sport racquetball like that. But if that still doesn't satisfy you, I offer up the word lacquer for the same reasons mentioned above. So there we go, 25 word lacquer.
Yeah, I don't love these ones because you're taking away the U as well.
For the same reasons mentioned above. So there we go, 25 out of 26 letters crossed off. We're close to knowing whether or not every letter in the alphabet can indeed be silent in English. It all comes down to V. Well, I have put every cell in my body into trying to find a word with a mute V, and man, it is hard. Merriam-Webster proposes ne'er as in the poetic contraction of never, but if you ever write ne'er, you do not write the V, pop an apostrophe there instead. So the V is less silent, more completely absent. Ditto with air and o'er. And I guess you could throw gimme in the mix as well for give me. But it seems that we just can't bring ourselves to write a V where there isn't one. So that's it. I think V is the one letter in English
Please tell me he says no. I'm joking. I have one.
that is ne'er silent. Or at least, I did think that. But then, last night, while looking at whether this village in Devon is really pronounced Woolsey, it is, by the way, I had a brainwave. Surely there is a place name in England with a silent V in it. If this can be pronounced Chumley, surely the inhabitants of somewhere else are smuggling a cheeky V under the radar too. Well, they are. My enormous thanks to the people of this small village in the English county of Norfolk for pronouncing.
I'm gonna guess how to pronounce. So Reveningham. Ronningham.
Their home, Ranningham. Some people definitely pronounce it Raveningham too, but look, here's that pronunciation confirmed
It is
in a
a proper
1990 BBC pronunciation dictionary. This is Ranningham Hall. So are we allowing that? Place names are words, and this one's in England, so doesn't that make it an English word? I'm having it. I'm doing it. I'm crossing off that V. And if one isn't enough for you, how about the town of Mulgai up in Scotland? The name has its roots in Scottish Gaelic, but we call it that in English. So that's it. Every letter can be silent somewhere in English. Fight me in the comments if you disagree.
The only ways that I'm not completely content is that I don't think that proper nouns, place names should be used. Because then you could just make it a person's name with a V somewhere that isn't pronounced. And the Q one also bothers me because the Q and the U make a sound like K. And so I don't know about that one either.
Words, and do call it that. Favourite outscribe and examples of the overuse of silent. I'd also love to see your favourite outrageous examples of the overuse of silent letters. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe and click like to let the YouTube machines know. And I think you should watch this video next.
Okay.
For now, I'll leave you in silence.
And so I liked, subscribed, and comments also increase the output for the algorithm. Great video. Ooh, I want to make it a funny thing.
Keep an eye on this, but it is not about how English.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Would appreciate any comments down below. Love you all. Hope you're all doing well. If I said anything you disagree with, possible, call me out. Answer any of my questions. You guys are great. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but okay. Nah.
One word you could use too. We were.
Nah. Great video, Rob. I would love to gnaw on. I'm just gonna do it that. See you guys later. Bye.